it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and I'm back today to continue working on Life is a Journey, the 8.5 by 8.5 mini album featuring Life is a Journey. So we're going to get started. Today we're on to page 6. So as in a lot of my albums, not all of them, but many of them, I do 4-page designs, and I do page 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I do 4, 3, 2, 1. So this is something that we've already done on a previous page. It'll have different design paper, but the flap design will be the same. So you won't be seeing anything new from this point on until we get back to finishing up the cover. Okay, so we've got a total of 3 flaps. You've got one that's coming down, one that's coming up, and another one that's coming down. And they weave together. So let's get started by laying down. And I just want to turn this over and confirm the orientation of my paper. It goes this way. So this, and I skipped the tape. So this is going to go in like so. So let's go ahead and get some tape on there. And I'll give you the dimensions before we lay it down. Okay. 7.5, score 1/2 inch by 7. 7.5 by 7. So you're going to score 1/2 inch on the 7.5 inch side, and you'll have a finished 7 by 7 panel when it's installed. Okay, let's go ahead and turn this over. Oh, of course, I didn't bring my pick tool. It's always something that I forget. And I'm just eyeballing this. It is centered on the top of page 6. So that's our first flap that's in. Our second flap is going to come from the bottom and go up and be centered on this flap here. And I'll put a little contrast in here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So this is going to be just centered on top of here and applied to the edge of the bottom edge of page 6. Okay, and I just want to center it, and I'm not measuring. You can, but I'm just doing it visually. Whoops, it grabbed before I was ready. I wasn't on the end of the paper. Okay, that's in. 1, 2. And then the third one is going to come down from the top this way and be centered on this one. So each one of the graduations and sizes is creating a sort of frame around the one that lays on top of it. So that's the design aesthetic I was going for. Okay, there we go. So here's all 3 of our flaps. Okay, so the orientation is upside down because I wanted to see the top down again. So it's going to look like this when we're finished. The thinnest or smallest flap is coming down across the front. So we're going to want to place a magnet on the back of that. And then one on this panel right here. So let's do that. I'm going to start by placing one up here. and locating its mate. And before I burnish these into place, I'm going to look at my pattern paper and make sure that I don't have any color blocking or anything that's going to expose the magnet. I don't think I do, but I'm going to double check. This goes here. This is what's going to go on the top. So what I can't remember is what's going here. And actually, that goes like that. Is that right? And that. And this, that's right. Okay, now I've got to find the pieces that are going behind this one. And I believe it's this. And this. And either way I decide to lay it down, there's no exposure. So we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish those in place. And we're going to start laying down some paper. Okay. So let's go ahead and lay this big piece down. And here I definitely need my contrast sheet so I can see all my edges. Perfect. Okay, now let's go ahead and lay this one down. Looks lovely. And now we'll add our purple piece. Then we'll have all the A sides covered. Well, most of the A sides. We don't have the main pocket page down. Then we'll go back and work on the B sides. Beautiful sunny day here in San Diego. Actually started out a little foggy but warm. And the sun is breaking through right now. Thank you everyone for your comments so far. I am pretty excited about those two fasteners on page 4 and 5 too. I think that turned out pretty cool. I'm always trying to think of something different to do with the chipboard besides just sticking it down somewhere. I mean, making it more purposeful. Okay, so there is sort of the base look. This is what's going to go on the foundation, and I just love this lady and this dog. So I can't really cut into that. That was it's just too pretty all by itself. So this is going to go in like so. I'm going to turn it sideways because I'm actually running into this flap right here. And it looks like it's ready to go. I'm sure I've got ink on it. So let's get this in. This is definitely from the 12 by 12 collection. You could really use the 8x8 if you wanted to. I just wanted a larger image of the dog. I think it's really cool. And it's not a hard rule, but it's a sort of a guideline. Generally speaking, if it's an 8x8 piece that I'm covering, or a large panel like so, I'll use the 12x12 collection. When I start to get into the smaller panels, I generally want to go with the smaller scale print, the 8x8. But you could easily have done this book with one or two 8x8s and the patterns and solids instead of a 12x12 and an 8x8. That's just a different approach, which a lot of people like. All right, so that's in. So now we're ready to figure out what we're doing with these stripes and patterns that I have. So I'm pretty sure this goes here. Sorry for all the throat clearing. And I'm pretty sure this goes here. Yeah, on this, and that's, when I say here, that's the small panel. This is the medium, and there's the large. I think we're gonna do the purple here. Yeah, that looks good. And I think I had planned the blue pattern on top, like so, and I like that. That looks nice, and it flows down into, sorry, I'll try to shift it, flows down into this pattern down here. And then on the bottom, we can either do that or this. And I kind of like this because then it pulls this pattern back in at the very end. So I think that's how I'm going to lay it out. So I'm going to go ahead and close these in place. And then we're going to we're going to go ahead and lay this in like so. And if I'm not mistaken, I had the pattern, yeah, the stripes first and then the solid on top. And it actually could go like that. Either way, I like both. So I'm gonna turn it sideways. I'm gonna lay down the stripe because I know that's the side I want. And then we'll figure out which side of the blue we think looks best. I like them both. I think I'm going to go with the solid on this panel. Okay, so now we have the front and back of the small panel, and I just noticed I'm not quite straight, so I'm going to straighten that out a little bit before it dries completely. Much better, much better. It was, these two margins didn't look even to me, so I straightened that up a little bit. And again, you can do that too, but do it quickly or you'll tear your paper. You can't come back to it in 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna glob a glue on me. Let's go ahead and do this large panel. We're gonna do the purple and then the blue stripe. And I'm going to turn it upside down. And I'm just checking all my margins and dry fitting before I start to lay anything down to see if anything needs to be trimmed. And I'm pretty happy with that. I'm actually going to lay down this one first. Okay, and the reason I like to lay down the thinner of the two strips is if either one of them needs to be trimmed, I like to deal with the largest piece of paper. It's just easier to handle in my trimmer. But honestly, I think I did a good job getting these trimmed out last night, and I don't think I need to trim them. Okay, I just want to make sure that wasn't in the hinge when I go to close it, and it's not, so I think it's ready to go. All right, so we have the top and the A and the B side of the largest flap done, and the A and the B of the smallest flap. Now we're going to work on the medium-sized flap, which is right here. And I'm going to close these so that I can shift the whole thing upward. Okay. And let's go ahead and get our contrast sheet behind it so you guys can see what I'm doing. And again, I'm going to put the stripe next to here, and then the blue up here. And I think I'm going to go this way. So this one and the medium and the small are going to have the same pattern layout, the stripe, and then although the stripe is going in an alternate direction, the stripe and then the solid blue. This is all built on the 8.5 by 8.5 base album. If you go to Life is a Journey playlist, you could locate the 8.5 by 8.5 base album build there. But also there's an entire playlist that's just base album builds. And when I say that, it's the cover, the spine, the hinge, and the 4 pocket pages that are just in the mini album base. And then everything that's specific to a paper collection, like these flaps and pockets, you will find in the playlist for the paper collection itself. So all of our tutorials are organized that way. So if you need to build a base album, it should be in the playlist. This one will have it in the playlist. But if there's not a paper you're looking at in particular and you just want to build a base album or see the sizes, there's a whole playlist called Base Albums. And I think we have 9 different sizes, so we have quite a wide array. We have 8.5 by 8.5, 7 by 7, 7 by 9, 6 by 8. We have landscape, portrait, 8 by 10. So I think there's something there for just about everyone. This is page 6, and we are now completed with page 6. So I am going to come back and do some embellishing, but I'm going to do that at a later time. We're going to continue working on just the base pages. And so our next page is page 7. And as you can see, I've got 7 in the upper left-hand corner, and I've got an S over here on the left-hand side because it's going to get attached to the book like so. And I like to keep track of where the spine is as I'm laying my paper in. And also, it doesn't really matter right now because there's nothing on the flip side, but once there's something on one side, it's a good idea to keep track of orientation, which way is up. And by having your spine, that will help you, that'll go a long way to helping you out. Okay, So like I said, we're not going to see anything new. All the designs that I'm laying in right now, we've done once before. So this is the page that has a flap and then a waterfall. And so I made a waterfall with another of the ephemera journaling cards. And I'll give you all the measurements. I don't think I gave you the measurements on our last page, now that I think about it. So I'm going to pull that back in. Okay, sorry about that. So this is 4.5, pardon me, 4.5 by 7.5, score a 1/2 inch on the 7.5 inch side. This is 5.5 by 7.5, score 1/2 inch on the 7.5 inch side. And the largest, and I'll have banners also, and the largest panel is 7.5 by 7, score 1/2 inch on the 7.5 inch side. Sorry about that. I missed it while we were installing them. For this one, this is 4.5 by 8. You're going to score 1/2 inch on the 4.5 inch side. You have one of those. This is 4 by 4.5, 4 by 4.5. You're going to score a 1/2 inch across the 4.5 inch side. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 of these. What I really meant to do was 6. So it's up to you if you want to change the strategy. If you only did 6, you wouldn't be cutting your tires in half. I just kind of lost my head and made 6 strips and then also had the top piece, and it should have been 5 strips and the top piece. So once I did it, I didn't want to waste my ephemera card. I just went ahead and laid it down that way. But that's entirely up to you. If you do it like I did it, I've got 7 of these. And that's the way I'm going to put it in the cut list. But it's up to you if you want to alter that and make one less waterfall. My goodness, I'm having a hard time this morning. Okay. So the way we kept this closed on the last one is we ran a ribbon across the front and it held down both of these. So if we do that, we need to locate the ribbon before we put down this first panel. And I don't have enough of the purple to do it, so I am looking at possibly using this yellow ribbon, which also came as part of the complete bundle if you bought the bundle from us. Okay, so part of what I'm trying to do right now is see where I want this ribbon to land. And it looks like, just eyeballing it right now, it looks like it's going to be in the middle of the pocket page. So I'm going to lay down my ribbon. I'm just thinking through out loud. Lay down my ribbon and then put down this piece of paper. Now, one of the things I noticed on the first one that I did is when you pull up on this and you've got your mat laying here and you pull it around to tie your bow, it was pretty hard on this piece of paper. So in addition to tacking it here to the pocket page, I'm going to reinforce this with a little black strip on the reverse side to make it stiffer, so that when you're tugging on the ribbon, you don't do any damage to the paper. I did not do that in the first one, and I wish I had. So with that, and it doesn't have to be much, right? It just needs to be the width of the ribbon. And an inch or so on either side. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down so it's reinforcing the pattern paper here, so the ribbon won't damage the paper. Like so. It just needs to be level with the paper. I should have done it on the first one. I saw last night where it was trying to lift up the paper. I was able to glue it down and use a clip to hold it in place, but I can tell it's, you know, it wouldn't take much effort at all for somebody to pull it through. So you guys want to take advantage of my lesson learned there and reinforce these two sides before you lay your ribbon down. I'm going to use my grid I know this is 8 inches, so I'm just looking for the 4-inch line, which is probably right about there. And I also, when I cut my ribbon in half, I really wasn't generous enough. I should have added a little more. So in this case, I don't have any other future plans for the yellow, so I'm just going to actually cut it in half and then trim it down to size once I tie a bow. So half on one side, the other half over here. Pardon me. And your tape just needs to be a little bit off the edge because you are going to have a little black border here. Not much, but a little. So, and the other thing I didn't do, and I'm going to do here, is I laid tape down to hold the ribbon. But I'm also going to put some tape on the top of the ribbon so that when the mat goes down, it's holding it both to the pocket page and holding the mat on top of the ribbon as well. Just to keep the ribbon from wiggling and potentially causing any issues with the paper that's on top of it, okay? Before I do that, let's go ahead and dry fit this one more time and make sure we're good to go. And it looks good. Okay, so remember, reinforce the areas where your ribbon is going to come across the designer paper. Tape the ribbon down and then add another layer of tape, and that's going to also hold it to the mat that we're getting ready to lay down. I'm using this because I forgot my bone folder. Okay, so that's in now. Oh, shoot. I'm so busy trying to make sure that this is reinforced that I forgot we actually have, shoot. We have a flap that needs to go in here. So I'm going to peel this back just a little. And we're going to do that real quick. Shoot. This flap needs to go in. Good grief. Sorry, guys. So because this flap is actually going to go on top of the ribbon, it's going to go a long way because the ribbon's going to come across, and it won't tear this designer paper, but this is the side that tends to be a little bit fragile. Okay. So I'm going to add some glue in here so I can slide it once I get in. My goodness. There are fires up north, and man, they are killing me. Okay, I'm just laying it down right on the edge, and this is going in beautifully, so I don't feel a bit bad about not catching it first thing. Okay, that's gonna go like that. This is gonna come over and it's gonna tie. So we did it. We did it. Okay. now that that's in, let's go ahead and lay down these 2 designer papers. And it goes in like so. This one's trimmed out and ready to go. And then we've got a nice, simple, solid piece for the inside. I like that too. I go back and forth. My struggle here is I like this image, but I don't like that the words are cut in half. But then we've got letters and letters, so maybe I should do this. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put it in this way. And I just noticed that I don't have ink on this. Okay, thanks everybody for your comments so far. So I have a question. So this is the first time I've actually released pages as I've made them versus releasing the whole thing with a walkthrough all at once. I'm very curious to get some feedback from you guys, what you prefer. I've seen designers do it both ways. They hold everything until the project is complete, release everything at once. And then, which is what I typically do. And then I've also seen it where they're releasing each page as they complete it. So I'm very curious to see what your feedback is. I know it's kind of hard to look at a page. I personally like to see the finished product first, but I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. It really, I'm trying to think, from a process perspective, it doesn't matter that much to me, except you just have to wait longer in between releases if you want everything all at once. If you like the trickle style, then I can release something every time I finish it, which would be, you know, every day or two I'd be releasing something instead of every 10 days. It's just something to think about. If you guys let me know and leave comments in the bottom, I will definitely consider it. I know when I asked you guys about how you liked my process, if you wanted to see all the flaps and then the designer paper, or have me finish each page individually before moving on, that you definitely had some strong opinions about liking to see the start to finish per page. So I've altered my methods to accommodate that. So I would do the same if you guys have some strong feelings here. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm just adding each one of the, and just to speed things up, since we've already done this once before, I went ahead and put the designer paper on the inside of these flaps. I'm not planning to decorate the outside or the A side. I thought about it, and then when I started trying to find a paper that I liked with the waterfall effect, I couldn't find anything I liked. So I kind of went away from that. So just FYI, that's entirely up to you. Make sure if you're using an ephemera waterfall like I am, that you are making sure that you're lining up each one of the pieces so that your words make sense when you lay it all down. Okay, so this is page 7, and we're almost done. Okay, and then I found this little piece of chipboard that I really like. But it's actually a little bit bigger than, so I'm going to try to find something that doesn't stick out over the edge here. And just so we have a little something at the top of this waterfall. Okay, that's going to close. We're going to tie a bow here. And again, when you're tying your bow, just be careful not to tug too much because you don't want it to pull on your designer paper. And I'm all thumbs this morning. I need one more set of hands. I'm left-handed, so I always want to tie my bows upside down, so it takes a real effort for me to get this loop over the top. It doesn't feel natural at all. So, and that doesn't look right either, but I'll come back and deal with the bow later. But clearly we have too much ribbon here, so I'm going to go ahead and trim some of that off. And then I'll work on straightening out my bow later. And that is the end of, oh, we'll go ahead and lay this down. That is the end of page 7. Page 7. Now we're on to page 8. There we go. Which is the flip side. And here's all my stash. Okay. So we have 2 flaps in a pocket for this. 2 flaps in a pocket. So our pocket is 2 and 5/8 by 9. 2 5/8 by 9. You're going to score across 3 sides. So when you're finished, you're going to have an 8 by 2 1/8 pocket that is going to go on the main pocket page. You're going to have 1 large flap, 6.5 by 8, score 1/2 inch on the 6.5 inch side. And then our last one is 5 1/8, score 1/2 inch, 5 1/8, score 1/2 inch on the 5 1/8 inch side by 6 5/8. 6 sorry, 6 5/8. 6 5/8. So this one is actually going to have a piece of ephemera or a journaling card on it, but it was a black one, so I wanted some contrast, and I think it's the blue one. So I made it just a little bit bigger than the ephemera card, and that's how I came up with the measurement for this panel. It's kind of an odd size, but like I said, I wanted something all the way around this journaling card to make it kind of pop out. Because black on black just doesn't really do it, does it? Okay, so that's what this is going to look like. Set that aside. Now we've got the larger flap. The stripes are going to go on the inside. We've got this pattern that's going to go on the outside. And we've got this pocket. So when you open it, you're going to get stripes, patterns, stripes. And this is going to look just like page 1. Which we'd already done, and it's going to have this alternating pattern of excuse me, red squares. That's not right. There we go. Like so. So that's what this is going to look like, and I'll show you really quick what we did on page 1. So here's page 1. It's going to look very similar. These will be different. The stripes will be the same. So we're going to use that same pattern idea in page 8. So I laid it out exactly the same, but I'm actually going to flip it around so that it is a mirror image of page 1. So the flap, the main body flap will be on the opposite side. of page 1. And then this flap will be on this side, holding it all together. So there we go. So the main flap will be on the pocket side. The ephemera flap will be on the spine side. Okay, so everybody's got a pretty good idea of what we're doing here. Let's set aside our designer papers and get our pockets and our flaps in. Now it's a little bit difficult because there's some bulk created from just finishing that page, but we can do it. Okay, remember spine side, we're going to add the pocket. Okay, I'm going to turn it toward me so I can see all the edges. Okay, so there is the pocket, and then on top of the pocket is this smaller flap. I'm going to give you the measurements one more time. It's 5 1/8 by 6 5/8. 6 5/8 by 5 1/8. There's a score 1/2 inch. I know it's a weird size, but it just happened to be the perfect mat size for that ephemera. We're centering this flap on the pocket. So that's in. And then this flap, the larger of the two flaps, 6 1/2 by 8, 6 1/2 by 8, score 1/2 inch on the 6 1/2 inch side, is going to go flush on the pocket side of the page, just end to end, same size. And there we go. Okay, so that is in. It's just going to close like that. So the pocket's on the inside, this large flap's going to go, and then the smaller flap is going to hold everything in place. We're going to hold everything into place with 2 magnets. So now I have to make sure I know what is on the flip side of the ephemera. So I think it's a solid piece. Yes. So I don't put the magnet where it would be exposed. It's a solid panel, so I don't have to worry about covering it up. I know this is a solid panel, so I know the magnet won't be exposed. Okay. Let's start by putting this pocket in. And I feel cluttered, so I'm going to straighten up a little bit. These all go together. This all goes together. And I need, here it is, my ink. Oddly enough, I had done half of the inking on this, but not all of it. Okay, so this is going to go right here, and it's going to cover up how this flap attached. A little heavy on the glue there. Can't really see my edges, so I'm going to throw this contrast in here, and that's going to help me get this in straight. Okay, that's in. Beautiful. This is going to go here, and I might need to take a sliver off. Maybe not. Maybe not. Oh, it looks good. All right, I'm going to turn it so I can see my edges here. Lovely. I'm going to open this up this way because there is so much bulk on the other side, it doesn't want to lay flat. And let's double check. It looks good. Okay. This way it'll go in smoothly. There we are. Okay. Now, as I had mentioned, we're going to put these 4 pieces in here and they're going to stagger. I'm just going to tuck them in here for the moment. And then we'll come over here and finish working on this side. And then we'll go back to the center. Okay, that is going to close like so, but I'm going to lay it again flat because we need to add these pieces, and I think it'll be easier on a flat surface. Okay, now I'm going to lay this down on a piece of black to mat it, and then I'll add it lastly to this panel. Hi, Nala. Good girl. Yes, you are. She likes to lay down at my feet when I'm crafting, which I think is very sweet. My husband's out working in the yard, and she doesn't want any part of that. I don't blame her, me either. I'm sort of over yard work. Those days are over. I used to garden, but not anymore. My hands can't craft and garden, so I had to give up one, and naturally it wasn't going to be crafting. Isn't that beautiful? I'm so happy with that. it's simple but lovely at the same time. So there's page 8. Okay, our last piece is the centerpiece. And it's going to go in like so. And yes, I have inked everything. That's fantastic. So now we're just going to kind of dry fit and make sure, you know, we can get those even, beautiful borders like we did on page 1. And if so, then we can start gluing some stuff down. And it looks good. I'm impressed. I did this last night at the dining table, which is not the best light in the house. In fact, it's probably the worst light in the house. But I'm pretty impressed. So I'm going to start. And you can't see it, but when you hear me doing that, I'm nudging that paper. It was not quite where I wanted it, so I was nudging it while the ink was still wet. I mean, the glue was still wet. And I just realized these two aren't the same width, so that's no good. But these are. Okay, so this one was a little bit slimmer, and that's okay because it's going to get tucked slightly into the pocket. Okay, now our goal is to make that line continuous. Let's see how we do. And I should triple, yeah, I was gonna say, oh my gosh, I don't know if I put my bicycle in upside down, but I didn't. And that is going to go in just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the red one. So, design tip. Your eye is going to get drawn to the black cross in the center of the page. If for some reason these are not perfectly square, square off the black line. Don't square off the edge of the paper. You'll see the edge, but your eye will be drawn to this X in the middle of the paper. So square off that. You'll be much happier with the end result. It's not an easy thing to do. It's very tedious, but I just really like the look of it. I think it adds a lot. Even when you put your photo on top and you see the collage behind it, I like that look. So I'm just cranking it around, looking at it from a couple of different angles. Pretty good. Pretty good, guys. I like it. That is the end of page 8. All right, so when I come back, we are going to go ahead and spend some time on the cover and the spine and get these pages installed. But for now, I am going to take a break, clean up my workspace, and get my next set of activities planned out. Thanks. This is Daphne from Scrap and Create. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Please do leave those comments. I read all of them. I do my best to answer them all within a few hours. If you have questions, you can leave them at the bottom. Take a chance or give us a chance. Go over to Scrap and Create. We carry everything you see me making projects out of and more. We're a big Graphic 45, Ciao Bella, and Stamperia shop. So if those are your paper brands of choice, there's a good chance we've got it in stock. Give us a chance. We do our best to stay competitive with everyone, both in shipping and pricing. And we appreciate you joining in here at Scrap and Create on the YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll be back soon with the rest of this project.